Hello everyone, it's Vass, and I am standing in the Six Flags Over Norrath build. And I first off want to thank Sans and Azurite for pointing out that my carousel was actually going the wrong direction. I could have sworn that I saw it in Six Flags Over Texas going the other way, but I double checked images, and every carousel that I saw was actually going this way. So I rotated all of those around, got that taken care of. Want to quickly go over what I've done since the last video. In the last video I was working on the Gravitron, the Temple of Life Gravitron, and you saw some of the parts of the build that I did, and I have kind of changed it up a little bit from the original build. I had used these weathered wide library bookcases, turned them sideways, and used the circle tool to have 20 of them around the outside, and it matches the draconic, well, not the draconic stage, the, if I can grab it, Vasty Deep Stone Medallion. It fits in nicely with the size of the item and the coloration as well, the same designs on both. Since then I did raise it up a bit because it was a little too short, and I've got it now with the walkway to it. I did have to move it in a bit because you would have no collision right over here and actually be able to walk through it because of the glitches in this house. I have since taken those 10 of those bookcases, flipped those around, and put them on the inside so the books wouldn't be showing. And I have put windows on the outside, give it that mechanical feel with those cyanic windows. Yes, cyanic windows. And I've put the mats inside for people to lean up against, and it's got the floor in and the big rotating gear at the top to show that it's a rotating object, and the doors open. I did have to rotate everything around using the circle tool to actually get this one panel centered on this platform, because originally this panel was off to the side and there were two of them actually. This one and this one were actually in here on the platform in the middle. So I rotated everything around just so the door would be centered, and I've got it barely floating over the entry, and built the actual mechanism that helps hold it up to and support the gears that make it spin. If you actually go into Qeynos, the Temple of Life is what I was using to model this after, since it is a Qeynos item. Okay, so as always, please leave comments in the video of the next section of the park you want me to start building in. And I will now show you the next part that I've been working on. I did a lot of this one off screen because it took a lot of work with the layout editor and moving things around. I spent a lot of time figuring out the exact angles, what items to use in what positions, in what areas. So I spent a lot of time putting this one together in the planning aspects, and it would have taken probably 3 or 4 videos at minimum to video everything, because I literally worked a full day from morning till night trying to get these parts together the way I wanted them to be. And I've got some pieces I'm working with right here. Again, these pieces are tying in with Qeynos. This is the actual last ride of the Qeynos portion of the park. And I've got some bits that I've put together just so I can use those to copy from and then move those pieces into other places without messing up my original. Just save some time if I have a template that I can copy the locations from and then move them in. But this is what I've got so far. It is about, I would say, almost halfway done. And this is the Qeynos Aqueducts Log Flume. So as you see, I've pieced together several. Whenever you have the flat pieces that go together at very small incremental angles, they fit together very nicely. However, when you're doing larger angles, they have a separation. So I have to go back and fix these little gaps, which I've played around with a little bit. Cerex, Demora, even Azurite was giving me some ideas. Thought of using columns, but the columns would have to be really big to fill up the gaps, and they also eat away the space on the inside, so you lose a lot of space on the inside, and a actual log would get caught there. It broke the immersion basically. But I've got some 45-degree angles here, which the outside angles come out great. The inside angles, not so much. I might go back and use columns just to cover up this part, but again, that would be really bulky, big columns, so I'm not sure it would work out for the best. I might have to leave it the way it is. But overall, I think I got my point across. This is pretty much the big drop, and we go down into the water splash, and then the log flume goes around and is carried back up on the conveyor. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is I've got another piece down there, and I'll show you that one and then show you how I will finish it off and connect it all together. So I've got this part here, which will be the actual ride will be going this way, and we'll go up under the big drop and come around in front of it, which I thought would be a cool idea, and then go down a little hill here and back up. So a lot of intertwining, And from here, I was going to have it curve around and come up, and then curve back around, do another curve to meet up with this one. Oh, this one, sorry. No, I was right, this one. I'm getting myself confused. So the bottom part would do a curve, and then it would do a little bit of a rise, and then another curve, and another curve, and come across to here. And it would be going up under the lift here. Now, for this part down here, whenever the lift comes up, which will be flat here, it'll go across and it'll have a curve and the actual loading station. Then from the loading station, it'll do another curve and another curve and a couple little hills to connect down here. That way it connects to that one and goes around, goes up the little hill here, does a curve, goes up a small lift, does another curve and another curve, and comes around, and the big drop. So a couple little hills, little splash areas, and the big splash area towards the end just before the lift that takes you into the station. I was debating on having the lift right, or having the main drop right after the station, but I felt it would be better to have it towards the end, the big one, and have smaller ones building up anticipation for the big drop at the end. Okay, so now I've gone over that. The next step is to actually start doing some more of the construction, show you kind of what I've done. I did use the new water spray tiles in most of this, if you can see them in there. I used the water spray narrow dividers and the white marble narrow dividers on the bottom. That way I could just copy the location of the white marble narrow dividers and raise those up. For the sides, I've used stairs, white marble stairs, and for the really small tight curves, I've used the tall dividers shrunk down really small. I could have used railings, but when I used the railings in trial, to get them the length of the narrow divider, they were still too short. If I made them bigger, of course these turns would be massive big turns, and take up half the part just to have the railings big enough to make it look like a log could fit in there. Same thing with the columns. If I used columns to make them big enough, they would eat into the space in the middle, or if I made them big enough to fit and then moved them to the edges, they would have to go way up, which would show the bottom with a gap. And if they were way up, they were still too short, or I'd have to make them as long as twice of these, which then that makes the corner pieces twice as big. So this was ultimately the best bet to go with the Qeynos theme. Now, even Azurite had suggested the split iron screens, umbrite screens, those kind of things that have that natural curve to them. And yes, I love those items. They have that natural curve, and they would work. But again, they don't have the Qeynos look to it that I'm looking for with like the white marble. And excuse me just a second, because that little flicker is going to irritate me. And load up the layout editor. Pull up my new from difference, and we will move it over 0.002 to north to get rid of that flicker. Okay. Now, even with moving things 0.002, you don't see that much of a difference. I've got my graphics set up really high, but you don't really see a whole lot of difference. But even from a huge distance, you will see the little flickers. And that's something that can't be helped unless you want to do it at like 0.005. Then you'll still have some flickering. But anytime there's overlaps from a distance, if your rendering is turned up, you will actually see the flickering. Azurite had commented that you could see the flickering in the path from up top on the island. My rendering doesn't show it all the way from the island, but you can see the flickering where there's little bits of overlap. But again, you're not supposed to be flying around in here. This is a theme park. You're going to be on the ground, walking around, enjoying the scenery, etc. Now, it's not forbidden to fly, so if you wanted to fly up and see what the tops of something look like or something like that, that's fine. I mean, you can fly in this zone, but ultimately everything's going to be based around ground level, so you could actually come into the park with a lower level tune that can't fly yet and enjoy the park. Okay, so now let's get to work, get some stuff done today. Okay, so I am going to do a small lift off of here to go into a curve. So I am going to copy these pieces here, which those water spray blocks, they're nice for this. It gives it the depth, but at the same time they're really hard to see. You have to be like really zoomed in and right up on them to see them, or have something behind them that's really dark. Now, I'm not going to worry about the actual pillars at this time, because I will go back and put them in where I think they are needed. Like, for instance, the lift. I've got one big one there, and then another one here to help support it. And a lot of the curves are supported, and so on. So I copied this. I'm going to copy that to the other ones, so I can make another one that looks like that. And I'm going to sort it where the larger ones that are already put together are at the top, and copy my stairs. Okay, so I've got that done. Let me close my little carousels that I was looking at. Okay, and I've copied that one and I need to move it back. Let's go 6 to the south. Okay, not quite far enough. I'd say 2 more. Probably a little bit more, but 2 for now. 2 to the south. And it is pretty close to junction. Height, the other piece is a little high. So let's do 0.2. We'll do that south a couple of times, probably 3 times. We will go down 0.2 and we will go to the west 0.2. Apply, save all. Okay, that's looking better. Bring it over a little bit more. Oops. So to the south a little bit more. I did 3 more. And 3 was too far. So we'll do 1 back to the north. And we'll try 1 more. Okay, now you get the point of me saying that I built a lot of this off screen, so you wouldn't have to see me do all these little details of getting everything positioned. Okay, so now I am going to go a little bit smaller because 0.2 would put it too much. So let's try 0.1. And it's better. I'm going to get up close here because what I want is for these two to come even. Once those come even, then I know the rest of it should be pretty even. Now the angles are going to, of course, have one of these poking out the other, but that's because of the angle and working with the straight pieces. And 0.1 I know is going to be too much, so let's go down to a 0.02 at this point. We'll do that a couple of times, which would be a 0.04, which is too much. So let's do one of the 0.02s to the north. That's pretty close. We might be at a 0.01 at this point. 0.01 to the south. And that is pretty close. I mean, I could go all day, which I did, getting things really close. I mean, as you saw, some of the items actually still had shimmer because I got them so perfectly aligned that they were fighting for visual recognition. Okay, so those are there. I do have to come up because it was too far down. And I'm just going to keep 0, 1 and go up a few times. Just so I don't have to go back and keep changing it so much. I'll just click it a few more times. Clicked it 5 times there. And that is pretty close. Okay, so at this point, whenever it's coming down from here, this side is a little higher than this side, so I think that the raft would probably be able to get up this hill, but from here it definitely will not be able to go up because this is higher than the other side. So for this particular one, I think I'm going to have to use a conveyor belt to add in a lift. This one's actually going to go up. I gotta keep reminding myself of my plan. I actually tried drawing it out, but when all these curves are so tight and overlapping each other, it's still confusing on a flat drawing of what's going up and down and around and overlapping each other. It gets really confusing. But this one's going to come up, it's going to curve, do another curve, do another curve, and come around to the big drop. So it needs to go up to here. So I can do another hill here and then start my curve, and I should have enough room for the lift and the curve here. So what I'm gonna do now is again just use my copy paste, and I'm gonna go with the one that's already here. So at least the east-west coordinates will be the same on both, less to have to work with. Now doing these little fine details and copying all this stuff and moving it around without the layout editor would be a nightmare. So again, this is like big thank you to Jezzer for the layout editor, because this would be a total nightmare without it. Okay, got my new ones in here. And I did have an issue the other day, yesterday, which I was able to quickly fix, but I was in the middle of talking with Demora, and I was like, oh no, I just messed up. And at first I was like, oh, that sucks because it won't pull it if I replace it and so on, which I'll show you in a second. But I just want to copy those and move those a little bit. Let's see. Let's go 4. No, because it's angled, it'll be a little shorter. Let's go 3 to the east and 2 up. There we go, that's a little better. And then we'll reposition those in a moment. But one issue that people might run into, which I was actually going to do a little tips and tricks video. I might actually copy a segment of this video and put it in a small tips and tricks video. But when you are zoomed into first person, I'm going to hit escape so I don't have a target. But when you're zoomed into first person and you're in a house with an item that moves, a moving active item, if you click, you grab that item no matter where you are in the zone. I could try to grab something over here, and half the time I'll grab that item. Sometimes you can grab it, other times you end up grabbing that item. And this is one of those items, the horizontal Zeganite sprocket active, which is this gear. This gear is, its center point is not the center of that gear that you would think it would be. It is actually off over here somewhere, just before the outside edge of that rounded part at the top. Just before that. So it is off center. So getting this placed center on here was a nightmare, especially with it moving. I had to use the layout editor because looking at it and trying to get everything in the image and manually placing it while it's moving was not easy. It was really hard to see with it moving. But I finally got it placed. But then I actually went and picked it up by accident. I clicked on it from over here working on this, and I picked it up. Now if you ever notice that you clicked on the wrong thing, you can just hit the escape to get rid of that, so it's not there anymore. But if you're in first person and you click, you will get those items. If you accidentally move those items or pick them up, reloading is not going to matter when you place it back down because it has a new location. You just placed it. The house thinks you just put it down. So it has that as your location. So loading it will not put it back into place. However, if you did do a save before, you can go into the layout editor and load that up, which I will show you right now. I've got my original macro for save underscore layout space Six Flags 1, save underscore layout Six Flags 2, save layout underscore layout Six Flags 3, which is just so I can have a difference file, and then load underscore layout Six Flags 3. Now at any point in time you can type save underscore layout Six Flags and whatever you want it to be. I have already done a 4. I'm going to continue saving with 4. And it will do layout save successfully. Now if you want, you can have 10 different save points. I mean, you can have as many different save points as you want. So let's say, you know, you built an area over here, you built the carousel and you wanted to save it at that point. And then you built the circus and I wanted to save it at that point. I could do that and have different save points, and I could name it, you know, save underscore circus complete, save underscore carousel complete, save underscore temple of life complete, whatever. You can do abbreviations, whatever you want. But when I picked that up, I didn't have it in a new from difference file anymore. So when I put it back down and I loaded my 3, it wasn't in there, so it didn't put it back. So since I had saved it at 4 and I was just starting, I had just done a save point at 4. So at that point I could just load layout, Six Flags 4. And it starts the layout changes, and the reason why this takes a while is because it's loading everything that was in that file. So it loads it all, and then it will finally say layout loaded successfully. That would, if you had placed the item down here after picking it up by accident and you load your previous save file, it would put it back for you, and that's what I did. It would have been murder if I had to try to re-center that thing all over again. So that's a little tip for you. Save often. You can have multiple save points if you want. That's just the way I do it, rather than doing a with, without, and working. I do it with different save points, and I have a number in there so I can physically go back into the folder and see which number was the last one I used. Now let's get back to work. Okay, I need to move those over. Let's do 0.2. Let's see, so we need to go to the east and down a little. So let's do 0.2 east, down. See how much of a distance that covers. Okay, down covered quite a bit. To the east, not so much, because you can see it's overlapped here. So I will have to go up 0.1, because that's too far, and then we will go to the east a couple times. So we'll do 3 of those, and that's a little too low still. So I probably could have done it without going down at all and just moved it over, and it would have been closer. So we'll go up. Okay, that's pretty close. It's pretty much in alignment. It just has a gap in between. So we will start using smaller increments. We'll do 0.005 to the west and down. I'm going to do that a couple of times to the west. 3, 4. I'm not going to go down anymore because it looks like it's already a little low. So we'll go to the west 2 more times. And that is pretty close. Pretty close. So I think we're good there. I mean, I could probably go up and go to the west, and it'll be better, maybe? Yep. And Edgewright was wondering why I didn't, why I had little pieces of the divider sticking out, or the stairs sticking out at the bottom. The reason why is whenever I had it in, that much was extra out here, so it was making these nasty curves, nasty parts of the curve look even worse, and it looked like it would be too high if you were in a log in the water. Plus it gives a little bit of a coverage on the bottom. So it looks like the actual stands are mounted onto the ride that way, and it also hides part of the conveyor belt. So if I have to have it tucked in, it'll hide part of it if it pokes through. Now I've got this one in here. I need to put a conveyor belt for the lift. Oh my god, where is it? There you are. Okay, looks about right. And it needs pitched. And lowered in. Actually, before I lower that, let me get a save. Just want it below the water, so whenever I click it I get the water, but I don't want it poking through, which is going to be a little bit of an issue because that's at scale 1. I think I'm going to have to scale these down. If I remember correctly, these up here, let's see, I've got a save of 1. And I can touch this one from outside the top there. So let's get a difference here. Okay, so yeah, that one's 0.95 basically. So if I change this one to 0.95 and save and load, that puts it back where I saved it above. Now what's the angle? The angle of this one is a little off, so we'll fix that. Sorry. Drop it down. Okay, that's not showing through. That's good. However, I think it needs a second one because it is a little bit off. It's not quite enough to get them to the top. This one over here would actually get the rafts to the top and then push it on over. This one you won't quite get to the top, so I might have to do a second one here. This lift actually has 3 of those on it, kind of overlapping a little bit, which they overlap pretty good. You can see a little bit of a line when they're meeting. It would be nice if these actually were like people movers, where it actually moved you, but hey, I like them anyway. Okay, so I've got that one in there. I'm gonna get a save, lift up my water block, and lift up my conveyor, get a new save, a change, And I am gonna do 1 to the west, 0.3 down. Let's see how that goes. It's a little above, and it's a little too far down. So let's go okay, let's go up some and then go to the east. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. Oops, I'm going to the west. It'd help if I went in the right direction. Let's see. And when you go up under, okay, that's a little better alignment. You should be under now. Yep. And not poking through. Yay. Okay. So the raft would come up and they would actually, let's move that one on up and put a second one here, because once it goes down and up under and it splashes up, it might need one to get across here. To 0.5 up and east. And we'll go down to its under, which is there. Not quite far enough. So east. Okay, that looks pretty good. So, yeah, it's bleeding through a little bit. So let's reload where it was. And we'll go back just a little bit. 0.1 to the west. And I'll do another one. And then we'll go down. Okay, can I grab it from here? No. And no. Now let's lift you up till you're gone. There we go. And can't grab it from the top. Good. So it's physically buried with water rolling over it. So now I need to put one in here. I might actually angle these two. They don't have to be a perfect 45 degree or 30 degree angle. is this one's a 30 and this one's flat, just so it gets that dip in there, but it can angle more down, I think. So let's try that. We'll start with the flat one. Okay, and this is going to be the difficult part. This one is flat, and this one, if we angle it another 15 degrees, let's do negative 105 here, and a positive 105 there, because they are flipped around, mirrored on each other. Add 15 to this one and this one. Add 15 to the roll. So I've got 105s there. Let's see if that works the way I want it to. It did it the opposite way. Okay, so instead, take 15 away from here and here. So it'd be 75. 75 there, and a negative 75 there. And how does that work? Oh, that's doing the wrong thing. Not rotate. 90, 90. So I need to take 15 away from here, so it should be 105. 105. 105. I don't know if those are right. We'll check. That is not working. Should that be a negative 105? Note that affects the angle of that. So those let's put it back. Okay, so we've got this one and this one. Negative 15. Okay, roll. Actually, let me save at this point. Okay, so the negative 15 has got those two arched the way I want it. Okay, these are not. However, roll actually rolls it like that. So I need to actually pitch a negative 15 and a positive 15 maybe. Let's see. Let's do both negative for now. Negative 15 pitch. And that one's right, that one's wrong. Don't know which one's which, but we can take away the negative and find out. 15. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it is off now. So I've got to lower these two down and this way a little bit to the east. Now you see why I did a lot of this off screen. say 0.1 down 2 times, to the east 2 times, and it's to the east too far, so we'll just go down 2 times. Okay, it's getting there, and it's almost lined up at the front. So we'll go down one more time. And I'm using visual. I'm trying to get this to match pretty close to that. And it's almost there. A lot of that corner's buried there, but this one is right there. It's right at the edge of the corner. So down 0.1. I'll do it one more time. That might be too far. It is too far. Okay, 0.1 up is fine. So now it needs to go to the east. And I'm just holding control when I click those to select both. And we'll do 0.01, 1, 2, 3 times to the east. And that has it just barely off, so it doesn't shimmer, so that's good. Okay, so now I need to move all of this way. So we'll do 0.2 to the west a couple of times. Okay, and down a couple of times. And pulling it off was not the best idea. Let's move it back. Okay, it looks like that one's actually a little bit too far. I moved it a little bit too far down. Probably when I shifted it to the east, it probably made it more visible since there's an angle here, because it shifts directly east, so it would give more edge seam. And 0.2, bring everything down. And it's a little too far. Point 1 up. Okay, that is better. The column is poking through, so I'll just lower that down some. There we go. So that one's in there pretty good now. I could actually bring the whole thing down a little bit and then tweak this to be closer to the same as that. See, down. And we will go up a couple on that and to the west. Okay, so that's a little closer. Maybe, actually I think it looks pretty good up here. So I think we're good. Okay, get a first save so we can start working with the next one. Okay, let's do 15 more degrees on this one. Let's see. Actually, this one needs to be 105. If I remember correctly. And these 105. Now let's see. Okay, that I didn't change my rotate, but I changed my rolls. Let me reset. See, I changed my rolls. I want to change my roll here to 105 and 105. Yeah, no, this is going to be 15 and a negative 15. But the stairs should stay at 120 because that affects how far they come out. Okay, so that's good. This needs to come down. And the whole thing needs to come down just to get them lined up. Okay, so let's do 0.2 down on everything. A couple more times. Okay, now it needs to go to the east some. Say 0.02 to the east. Uh-oh. Okay, so I accidentally pressed comma instead of a decimal. So the layout editor automatically will not take a comma, and it automatically changes it to 1 since it's an invalid number. So when I moved it, it shifted it 1. As you see, it changed it to 1. So I just need to shift it back. So just 1 west. So I've shifted it back. I'm trying to look at the screen and punch in numbers. 0.01 to the east. Not going to be enough. So let's try that 4 times. And actually that's 1 too far probably, maybe 2. If we go up 2. In actuality, it's gonna overlap on both sides, so that really doesn't have to matter. So let's go up and then go point to east. At least I can get it to overlap good on both sides. Okay, it's getting a gap at the bottom. It's not working for me. So let's go back. And 0.1 to the east. I don't want to have a gap at the bottom. And it's got an overlap at the top, but it is off just enough so it's not going to shimmer, so that's good. I still need to lower those. So we'll go down, went down 0.4. We'll go down 1 more, and then go to the east a couple. And I went a little too far down, I think. .02 up on all of it. Okay, that's a little better. And then we'll go 0.02 to the west and up some more on those. Ah, too far. Okay. They're both high on this side, so if I shift it to the west, that should bring in the overlaps to where they overlap. Let's try that theory. Is that making it worse? Let's go to the east a couple of times. Ah, so going to the east is actually getting rid of the overlap. But I'm pulling it away from here a lot more, so I'm going to end up with a gap over here. So let's do that in reverse. We will go down and to the west, down a couple more times. Okay, to the west. Let's see. Don't think I'm gonna get it much better than that, other than rolling it a little bit more. $108. If I roll it a little bit, oop, too far. Roll it a little less. 103. 103. Actually, let's not so much. 104. 104, because it was 105. Okay, so that's over. That's a little bit. Now move it to the east. Down. Might make the gap opposite. Actually, it pretty much got it. Okay, so we're good. Okay, so I've got that component. And I need another conveyor belt. Which I'm going to lift that, lift that, lift that. So I can copy this conveyor belt to this one. That way they have the same location. And we'll move it 4 to the west. I think these have weird movements. Yeah, see, 4 is only like half, even though it's at 0.9. So they have some weird movements. So let's do another 2 to the west. So that's too far. Two to the east. Okay, that would probably work. And I need to change my pitch. Let's do pitch of 20. Actually, pitch of 17. There we go. Okay, so I've got that part of the lift there. So it's not quite a full steep of a lift, but it's a little bit of a gradual lift. And then I need to do my curves, straight piece, curve. And this one's actually not going to be a very long straight piece. So come up, you'll do the curve, come straight a little bit, and do the curve. Might be enough to just do 3 curves together. So basically, this curve, and this one minus that straight piece that's in the middle here. That might be enough to do it, but it might actually be just copy that whole thing and bring it over and rotate it. We will see. But for now, I am going to end the video and take a break, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.